Hey,
Hello, everyone.
hello, hello.
It's Tuesday afternoon, our new
Yes.
show time. I'm still getting used to it. Still getting a little bit of, this morning I didn't have cacao because I knew I'd be sitting at 4 o'clock having cacao live with the entire world out there. And it does take some getting used to.
And I have to say, I'm out of my mushroom mug this morning.
Ooh, check
Yeah.
check that out. I like it. I like it.
Uh-huh. This one's from Washington State. And I'm going to say I didn't have time to make cacao.
So you got tea. Shh, don't tell anyone because this is cacao conversations.
It was a mad rush today, but
So
to the cacao
sometimes life is, and you just do the best that you
bugs.
can, and it's okay.
Exactly, exactly. I forgive myself. Anywho.
So one thing I had to forgive myself about was last episode, I forgot to mention that it was episode 300.
Wow.
So this is episode 301.
Wow.
And I haven't looked at the statistics lately, but the vast majority of podcasts never make it past episode 5. So we are definitely
Kudos.
in like a really small elite group of podcasters out there.
Kudos.
And
Kudos. Keeping it
yeah,
strong. Woo woo.
so
Love it. Love it.
incredible to think that I can still come up with more stuff to talk about.
You have a gift, my dear. You have a gift.
So, well, and I'm rolling through the guest host, so I hope you make it for a while, but
Number two.
apparently I burned them out. So
Third time's a charm.
third time's a charm. Okay, here we go. And who knows? Graciela said she's going on sabbatical, so you never know. She might come back one day.
Welcome back. Absolutely. We'll take
Yeah.
turns. Good. All good. It's all good.
Or we might do a threesome, a menage a trois.
I'm game. I'm game. We got to split 3 screens here. Split
Well,
3
it's
screens.
not that different than, back in the early days, we used to always have guests.
Yeah.
And we still are open to having guests. And so, I tell people if you have something to talk about and you think it's relevant to our audience and,
Mhm.
what we tend to talk about on the show, you can reach out. We are open to having guests. And so it does happen from time to time. But we're not, we left that every episode guest thing a while back. And good.
Okay.
I like talking about what I want to talk
I
about.
know. And this is a fun topic. I love this topic. It's one of my
Oh,
favorites. I'm like, did you do this for me?
yeah, we have somebody on already that is that. Oh, I got to remember to use my clicker. Here we go. So Louisa says she can't
Ah,
wait to hear about today's topic.
nice.
And I'm super excited about this topic. I am not gonna lie. Oh, Lewis. Is it
Lewis.
Lewis?
I think that was
Okay.
Lewis, and I think I know who that is. Hi, Lewis.
Okay.
Shout out.
Ah,
Mhm.
I need better than my Amazon reader glasses
So
here.
good. So good.
Welcome to the show, Lewis. But what I was gonna say was I'm probably gonna ruffle a few feathers today,
Mm,
you know.
it
And
happens.
not that I'm not already good at that, but I I don't know. I guess unity is your word. Like when I hear the word unity, I always think of you, Doris.
Thank you.
And I have a few words. I wouldn't necessarily say that like unity is one of those words that I preach a lot. I guess when I more use the word like one or oneness, but same
Mhm.
thing,
Same
right?
thing. Absolutely same thing. Yes. Yes.
But so, and the reason this came up for me is that there's already so much separation out there.
Yes.
The world out there, the programming out there,
Mhm.
the powers that be out there are doing
Mhm.
everything in their
Mhm.
power to
Mhm.
separate and divide and
Yep.
point out our differences, and
Yep.
whether that be,
Oh,
political,
yes.
religious,
Yes.
gender, race, nationality, like
Mhm.
the list goes on, and and even far more than that, of ways that they try and get us to believe that we're separate,
Mhm.
when we know the truth is that we're all one.
We are. We are.
And so, but what really upsets me, and just because I've been seeing it too much lately,
Mm.
so I was like, I have to I have to speak up right now. I just can't hold it in.
Do
When it comes
it.
to saying that we're separating at work, they try and separate people as well.
Yep.
Yes, divide and conquer, divide and conquer.
Yes.
But what bothers me is, and I'm going to say spiritual, don't take the word spiritual and religious the same, because I do really see most of the time religion is trying to separate us. But those
Mhm.
of us that have kind of left the religious
Formal traditions of
path,
religion. Yes. Mm-hmm.
and have recognized that spirituality, God, universe, source, all of that is so much more than um what the religion, so we come to spirituality,
Yes.
and then, like, this is the perfect place to create unity,
Mm-hmm.
but the people in the spiritual realms are
Mm-hmm.
creating, and it's driving me nuts.
Yes. It's everywhere. It's
Yes,
rampant.
and
It's
so,
rampant.
people in, whatever spiritual platform that is, they're out there preaching
Mm-hmm.
that our way is the right way, and then they're
Mm-hmm.
criticizing the other people and putting their way down, and it's not right. And,
Mm-hmm.
like, that's not going to help us get where we're trying to go.
You got that right, sister. It is not. And I think that unfortunately, it is true that everybody is wanting to tell their perspective and make their points and bring everybody on board with their views. And that is the struggle that I see when we're, if you just pick three religions that everybody knows, right? They all have spirituality in them. And like, I think of Christianity, Buddhism, and Hinduism, right? And if you speak to one person that is steeped in each, they're all going to say, my way is the way, right? And I had to have this conversation a while ago. It was actually with my mom, saying to her, because she's steeped in Christianity and I'm, that Catholic evolved, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
know Christianity more than anything, in terms of religious practices. But I was trying to tell her, Mom, Mom, don't yell at me for calling you out on this, but there are always. I'm going to get a phone call after this, I know,
We
but
love mom. Mwah,
love
mwah,
you,
mwah.
Mom. She brought me here. She did. But, trying to tell her that, there's always all different ways to the same goal. And the goal is what? Knowing you're divine, knowing there is divinity, knowing that you are that piece of God's source, the whole one. Just that concept was so difficult to explain. And what do you mean? Jesus is the only way, and I have to say, I've met people at work, for example, that do believe this. And if you don't believe the way they believe, you're wrong, you're blasphemous, you're this, you're that. And so what does that do? It divides, right? So immediately you're put on the affront, right? You're on the defense. And you're trying to have these conversations of unity and oneness and compassion and love thy neighbor. This is what we grew up with, right? Well, lo and behold, it says it in every single religion that there is. So there's really no point in arguing the main source that brings us peace, right? The main source that brings us love and knowing that we're divine. They all preach love your neighbor, forgiveness, charity, compassion in the Buddhist tradition is huge, that kindness, right? And then your Hinduism, well, you've got your compassion, absolutely, and that nonviolent truthfulness that we see all the time. So it's like when I would talk about this and have it in my head and in my heart, because truly you have to drop into your heart to really get this. Why are we arguing? Why are we fighting? Why? What is the purpose of discussing religion and spirituality if not to bring us to a unified togetherness and truth? Because isn't that what every one of them preaches? So, I'm not looking for an argument. I'm not looking, and when you said ruffle feathers before, I'm glad you said it. Because if this conversation ruffles your feathers, start to look at the triggers and the why you're feeling that, right? That on the defense. And know that that's not the purpose. That's not the purpose that we're trying to present here. It's let's kind of be curious about what each other is saying. Let's kind of embrace a new perspective on all of it. Maybe we're going to learn something. Maybe we can stay open-hearted, right? And kind of let it in, let it sink in and see if it sits well. Let it sink in and see if it resonates with us, our energy, And are you looking at that other person as such the other, that it's not part of you, that it's not part of every person around you, this world, right? Humanity. We've gone too far and you're the other. You're over there, I'm over here. We're not connected. We're not one. That's where we are. We're just too busy with all the rhetoric and the arguing of the differences. So I'm like, let's get to the meat of this to try to transform. One on a.
Well, and I have like a whole bunch of things to say. When
Yeah.
you're asking what's behind it, ultimately what's behind it is fear.
Yes.
Everything that's separation is fear. And I'm not here to tell anyone what to believe. I'm not here to tell anyone what is right.
Yep.
What's and I say this all the time, and I know I've said it to you numerous times. I said it to you this weekend. Like, just because I tell you my truth doesn't mean it has to be your truth. Doesn't mean you have to pick it up and accept it as your truth. I'm just telling you what my truth is today. Because trust me, my truth has changed so many times over the course of my life. And I know it's going to continue to evolve and change over the course of my life. Um, but I always tell people, like, if anybody comes to you and tells you this is the only way, this is the right way, your way is wrong, like, if someone comes and tells me that, I instantly shut down. I'll listen to what you have to say, but I'm not buying it because you've already like created that, because there is no one right way. And I guess people are afraid of being wrong. And, Christian religions put that fear in, like, if you don't do what we say, you're going to hell.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And I think we all know that the only hell that exists is our own suffering that we create here in this 3D lifetime that we're living here. And so instead of worrying about what you do sending you to hell, we could all spend a lot more time and effort in creating heaven, nirvana, peace, bliss, whatever you want to call that. We are all completely capable of creating that here and now in this lifetime.
Yes.
But if everybody keeps dividing, we're not going to make this happen. So I guess this is really an invitation to all of the spiritual leaders, those that are practicing. I love that spiritual, non-religious, but even the religious
Mhm.
people can get on
Mhm.
board. Like,
Yeah,
you are free to practice your religion, and I am not going to judge you for practicing your religion,
that's it.
but also understand that it's not the right way, it's not the only way, it's not the one way, it's just a way.
That's right.
And as long as it's leading you to love and compassion, awesome.
Yes.
Now if your religion, tells you to harm others, might want to rethink it. But I'm not really aware of any religions preaching that. Like we said, when you get to the core of all of the different religions, like the core beliefs are all the same. It's just the details that someone made up around it. And
Mhm.
so interesting too, with archaeology and history and, you know, everything they once believed to be true, they're now finding evidence that it's not true.
Mhm.
Um, I have a lot of theories on that as well, but that's a
Yeah.
whole different
Another
show.
another show there for sure. For
But
sure.
I'm like, what does it take to get people to unify?
Right. And that is a really good question. What does it take? And I think that's the core value and truth that we want to target today because, you know, um, I think asking one's own heart, why it is that you can separate yourself and judge others the way they are, the way they live, the way they look, whatever. I think judgment's a
Especially
big
when people are judging them without actually knowing them.
knowing them.
You know,
That's what
they're
right,
judging people because social media tells them to judge them, the news tells them
right,
to judge them. And
correct.
how often have I seen people that have met someone that they believed that they were supposed to hate this person, and then
Mm-hmm,
when they actually meet and talk, they
mm-hmm,
realize they're
mm-hmm,
not really that different and
mm-hmm.
they can actually like each other.
Exactly. I love that. And it's all about an open mind and an open heart. Because when you're open and not judgmental, you're going to allow things in without such a strong filter of, again, fear. Because really, it is fear. Are they threatening your truth? Are they threatening what you believe or have learned to believe and told to believe? And this is, I think, the main issue. When somebody meets another person from a foreign country, even a foreign language. And a lot of this is just semantics and language because, the Far East, when they talk of Buddhism, they have the same understanding in the compassion and the love and all that us in the West, when we practice Christianity, do. So it's like, it's first take a look at, is it a different language? Okay. And if it's a different language, you can't judge the way they interpret things and the way they are through their language only. That is their language. That's what they were brought up in. So you have to really first look at, okay, are they trying to tell me something where I can see and thread the concept and the understanding through what I know it to be? Let's look for, the similarities, not the differences. Because when you do look for the similarities and the threads throughout, you will find them. So it's like, open your heart, open your mind, open up to learning something new that somebody from another land that speaks another language and practices differently can. And I think that's the biggest thing is be curious and be open and not block, right? And not judge and not judge as other. If you think about a baby being born, in Japan, in Tibet, and they only know this one upbringing. How could you judge, right? Judge somebody in that way that they have, they don't have another language to explain what they feel inside. But you see the love and compassion in that person, you know? And, I know we're energy people. So the energetics of it all is such an easy read. So when you feel warm, loving energy and compassionate energy from somebody, it kind of just resonates in your body to feel it. You feel it in your heart, you feel it in your sensory system. I mean, your heart and your gut are going to receive that first. And I think that's something that, a lot of us don't listen to, is how does our heart feel? How does our gut feel? Are we feeling the love and the compassion that's coming through the words that may be a little bit different, but it feels the same from something I know? So,
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
and
go
you
ahead.
had mentioned, opening your mind and opening your heart, but I think a lot of it is we need to get out of our head and just into our heart,
Just
and
into
part
the
of
heart.
the preaching of the cacao, it is a heart opener. And, you know, opening your heart and allow your mind to function
Yeah,
through the heart space.
that's right.
And so yeah, sometimes people think I'm a little crazy, like, you know, with all these cacao ceremonies and promoting cacao use all the time. But it is one beautiful tool that we have here, a gift from Gaia
That's right.
that has been shown to, you know, yes, for my 3D people here, it does open your heart on a 3D
Hmm.
level,
Hmm.
improves your cardiovascular health and function. Um, but on an energetic and a spiritual level,
Hmm.
it helps you open up your heart. And um, sometimes I'm like, I wish our eyes were on our heart and that we were
I know.
seeing through our heart. But I know people love to say, what would Jesus do? But then
Mm-hmm.
we're pulling Jesus into this. And while I don't call myself a Christian anymore, I have a lot of experience with Jesus, and I do believe that he's an ascended master and here
Oh,
to
yes.
support us in, he's the number one out there, like supporting
Yep.
this unity for us if people would
Yep.
just open up and listen. Um,
Love thy neighbor.
100%. Um, but it, so instead of saying what would Jesus do, what would
Hmm.
love do is the way that I like to put it,
I like that.
because love is universal.
Yes.
And so in each moment, ask
Hmm.
yourself, what would love do?
Hmm. That's such a simple phrase and a simple thing to follow, really. I mean, if I think the more we think about things like you're saying, the more we have these filters and these thoughts and this programming, when you let that go and really feel and search for that love, it's going to come much easier than trying to decipher words and be critical of the language or whatever communication is being conveyed. I think that's part of the issue. And I think sometimes people listen with, the I don't want to say, how you're listening, but you're not listening. You're waiting for the person to stop because you've got this thing you want to say to make them wrong and you're right. And that always, and that's the mind doing its thing. It's like, listen with your heart, feel with your heart, and then think with your heart. And then maybe you don't have to say, I'm right, you're wrong. And it's like, it costs us so much, that feeling. And again, I know it's fear. And when we're kind of building up our ego when we're young and we really don't know who we are in the midst of constructing our ego self. And until we get a little bit older, sometimes we start to realize we can dismantle it and and connect, and we're not so threatened, that somebody is going to make us wrong or make us inferior or make us inadequate. And I think that's sometimes why we go so much to, I'm right, I have to be right, I have to be right. So, I mean, I was always taught recently, I mean, I don't know, maybe the last 20 years, would you rather be happy or right?
Well, and
You know,
going back to being right, think about, 20 years ago, what did you think was right that
Uh-huh.
today is absolutely wrong? Like,
Exactly.
all of us have
Mm-hmm.
gone through, well, I don't know, maybe there's somebody out there that was born believing
Mm-hmm.
one thing and has believed that thing their entire life, and if this is
Yeah.
true, I'd like to meet this person.
Yeah.
But I just invite everybody who's on a spiritual path to examine that once that thing that you once thought was absolutely 100% true, right, and then years later you come to realize, oh wait, that wasn't right, and now I believe this to be right. And today you might believe that thing to be right, but
Yeah.
5 years from now you may come back and check and realize, like, oh, I wasn't right then either. So I think the truth is, we are never right or wrong. We are
Yeah.
just in the space that we're at in this moment,
In that moment.
and you know being in that curious state, an
Yes.
open state, is what allows us to change and move forward and shift. And so, I really
Yeah.
want to put this as an invitation out there to everyone to, it's okay. I'm completely okay with you believing whatever you want to believe today.
Mm-hmm.
But can you be open to allowing others to believe what they want to believe?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we can all believe different things and still coexist in a loving, compassionate way
Mm-hmm.
on this planet while we're here.
Absolutely. 100%. And I think that's what we're doing. We're doing, now and talking about it and bringing it into the ministry events. And I'm I'm thankful that we're having this conversation. I think over the weekend, the word, Julia and I spent some time on Saturday night, but the word that came ringing through loud and clear for me: expansion, expansion, expansion. And and you're talking about the evolutionary process, not only for ourselves but for humanity. And when we just look at for ourselves and our part as like I say, I call myself an evolving Catholic. I'm evolving out of the one way of thinking because I wanted to expand my knowledge. I wanted to expand my thoughts. I wanted to expand my perspectives. And it's such an important piece in acceptance. And until you do that expansion and, I guess, curiosity, right, that we're talking about, into all the different, and if it interests you, it interests you, but you will go into it curiously and then let it sit with you, and as you do that, you are expanding. You are allowing new information to kind of sit with you, yourself, and in your DNA. So, I mean, I think that's the stuff that I have done over the years to, like you said, not hold on to that one way or that one truth or that very minuscule capsule that I grew up in. That's how I feel. It was like, we become encapsulated. We're in our parents' house. We go to church. We have the same friends who believe the same thing, the same family members who believe the same thing. So it's an encapsulation. So when we go out into the world ourselves as adults and we want to explore, what does our exploration bring us to? So I think some people stay stagnant and don't think about these things at all. I think they're just, busy, 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 trying to build their careers, trying to pay their bills, trying to raise their family, that it's really not important. And so, to no fault of their own, they're just trying to get by, do the 3D things that we know we need to do to survive. And they don't, say to themselves, I wonder, well, I learned this 20 years ago or 15 years ago, or this is the way I thought about it then. What do I think about it now? How do I feel about that now? So I think that's part of the issue. is that we're kind of trapped in the ways that we've always been without leaving room for expansion. So those are my thoughts there.
And to that, I will also say, because yes, um, it's the programming, and the programming is strong, and it it really pulls people in. And I think one of the things that I see out there is that a lot of people are shifting spiritually right now and are in some stage of remembering and waking up. But because of the programming out there, they're afraid to go and talk with other people about it.
Yes.
And, really, this is also an invitation to start conversations, um, you know, yes, we all get to be a little brave, have a little courage.
Yes.
But if any of this matters to you, like, start having these conversations with people. And I invite you to be the person that can hold the space for no one has to be right or wrong, and that I'm a lover of the both. Both things can be true.
Yes. Yes.
Always. Both can be true.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think if we start being braver and having these conversations with more people, people will come to me and say, you're the only person I can talk to this stuff about. And I call bullshit, because there are so many people coming to me and saying that to me. And I'm like, if everybody's saying that to me, they all need to just start having a conversation with each other, because people do want to talk about this stuff, and how we get it to grow, and how we break the programming, and how we break free of these beliefs that we're separate and we're different, and is by having the conversation, and having the conversation in a space of open-heartedness. And that is part of the purpose of the cacao ceremonies, is we sit together and we have this heart-opening beverage together and open up the space for connection and unity and community. And even last night, like, no cacao was involved. It was my chakra balancing class last night. And chakras aren't really a topic of, you grew up Catholic, I grew up Lutheran. I don't think I ever heard the word chakra in church ever.
No. Me neither.
But it was so interesting. We had such a diverse group of people in this room.
Love it.
And I'm getting everybody to share. It's always like, no one's required to share, but there's a strong invitation here to share, because you're going to be surprised to realize, like, you think that you're the only one experiencing such and such a thing. But when you share, there was one point that one person shared, and like 3 people were like, you said exactly the same thing that I was going to say.
Yes.
And they were 3 completely different people.
Yes.
On the outside, age, gender, nationality, like, all different, but yet they all were experiencing that same thing. And, which is back to the unity, everybody thinks everybody is so different. We're not. We're all one. We're all the same. And, so when you recognize that and you feel that, you realize that hating on someone else is just hating on yourself.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Calling somebody else wrong is just calling yourself wrong.
I love it. And and I know it's a topic for another day and we're getting to a close, but collective consciousness is really a thing. So, and that you just named an example. So, when we're all sitting in a room, in a space like your chakra balancing or cacao ceremonies or whatever, and, we say these similar things and have these similar thoughts, what's happening? Well, there is a consciousness, right? So, sometimes I call it consciousness soup. What are we pulling from? And we sit around and we have these ideas and we have these thoughts that pop into your head and or individuals' heads, and they're like, where'd you get this from? Where did I get this from? Where did that just come from? Okay. So, and
Comes from the all.
it comes from the all. It comes from the one. It comes from this consciousness, this source, the God that we all talk about. That's where it's coming from. So if we are all pieces and parts of that, how could we, right, not accept the fact that the person, or just you just said it, sitting right across from is not from that same original. Remember, spirit came to incarnate, right? Didn't we all come here and incarnate? And we're living out this human experience. Where did we come from? Where did our spirit come from? Source, God, all that there is. And there is no reality but God. God is all there is. So that pulled that out from my Sufisms. But and I love that. I love that you had that experience, and we do get to experience that all the time. On an energetic level, we feel things that each other feels, right? We think things that each other thinks, right? We say things that each other wants to hear, right? Or wants to say. So remember that the next time you do speak to somebody that is different in their thoughts and perspective and religious practices and spirituality. I love that you're giving that invitation to be courageous. Have the conversation, and be courageous and be curious and lose the judgment. And I think we'll start moving towards that unity and understanding, really. Because I mean, ultimately, why are we doing this? We want to move in that direction. As humanity is, we don't want to stay like this. We want to evolve. And we want to evolve back to a very peaceful, loving place that we all can live very, much better than we are now.
We talk a lot about the suffering, and the suffering doesn't have to exist.
Mm.
Get rid of the fear, get rid of the hate, if we get rid of the anger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take that, like, okay, maybe we don't get rid of it, but we learn how to work through it
Move
from a
through it.
space of love.
Move through it. Exactly. Because, I mean, in all these religious practices, again, they have ways to move through the suffering. Absolutely. I mean, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, I keep those in my head because, whether you liberate from attachment, right, for the Hindus, or you come through an enfolded, enlightened path through the Buddhists, or you're having that, okay, Christ saves, right, the fallen. They all address this suffering, which we cannot escape when we're human. We can make it less, however, and we can know that we're going to come out the other end and we're going to move through it in a much easier way. And we don't have to stay in it. We don't have to stagnate and simmer and stew and feel like we belong there. That is the key. We have love and compassion as that polar other end, right? And we need to move through it and towards love. So that's it.
Yes, my cup of cacao is done, so I think it's time to wrap up the show.
Oh, wow.
But I would like to give an invitation out there to those that are listening. What are your thoughts on this topic? And do you find yourself in that space of righteousness, needing to be right, or has this conversation potentially inspired you to be more open-hearted and just look at things differently? Don't buy the programming.
Nope.
Do not buy the programming. It's not real.
I know. Feel your truth. Speak your truth. Love that. Yes. All right.
So, all right. Well, thanks for listening in today. And if you enjoyed this, please share it with friends. We'd love more listeners out there. And like I said, we would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the topic. And I guess until next time,
Until
that's a
next
wrap.
time, it's a
Have
wrap.
a magical day, everyone.